I'm Stephen Harper from a theatre company called Told by an Idiot, and I'm also the director of Cops and Robbers, which is a short film we made in various locations in Coventry and which you're going to see in a few minutes. Film in the style of those silent comedies made famous by Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, and my favourite, Laurel and Hardy, was inspired by Told by an Idiot's production The Strange Tale of Charlie Chaplin and Stan Laurel. The film was created by the wonderful group of actors you'll see on screen. They responded brilliantly and with great energy to the style and humour need. I had a feeling that they would enjoy the slapstick and the chase scenes, and if anyone can pull off a custard pie fight, then it's this lot. Before we show you Cops and Robbers, you'll see What's in the Bag, a collection of clips of open theatre participants finding out what's in the bag. This will be followed by the wonderful dark comedy The Bag, and then onto our main feature. So sit back and enjoy.
Introductory title screen. We have been exploring silent films at Open Theatre, and all of our participants were tasked with creating their own short film called What's in the Bag. Here's a compilation of those films, followed by two standalone films, all inspired by What's in the Bag. Sam in his bedroom looks in a black backpack. Katie sits on 3 wooden garden chairs, noticing an abandoned bag. Alex unzips his backpack. Cameron listens to an open cardboard box. Kyle, in a wheelchair, sits next to a plastic sack. Rashan walks up to a backpack. Danielle points to his chest, head, and beyond, grabs his flat palm. Bob in bare feet jumps in fright at something in his duffel bag. Katie finds a dancing shoe. Sam, perplexed, pulls out an Egyptian headdress. Alex can't find anything. Cameron pulls out a black dog toy. Kyle pulls out a hexagonal dumbbell. Daniel reveals a bubble wand. Rashan finds headphones. Bob lifts his live duffel bag. Katie reveals a white floral garland. Cameron extracts a light brown teddy. Intrigued, Alex rubs his head in worry. Kyle has a boxing glove that he gets punched in the forehead. Sam adjusts the Egyptian headdress. Daniel has a think. Rashan jumps back in surprise. Then Bob does the same. Alex finally finds a bag of tissues and tosses it. Katie pulls out a long black tube or sock. Kyle gets a litter picker. Sam gets a pair of gloves. Rashan lifts his backpack in the air and looks underneath it. Alex finds some keys, still not happy. With repeated pulls, Cameron takes a humanoid toy out of the box by its ear. Kyle reveals a long foam tube. Katie has a long knitted black shawl. Alex double takes. Cameron pulls out a soft blanket. Katie brushes off a soft cap. Cameron still pulls out his bathrobe. Gloves now on, Sam has a Nerf gun. Lightning strikes next to Kyle, and the rain begins. He looks around. Cameron takes another dog toy out. Kyle finds a handy umbrella. Oops, the rain stopped. Sam discovers a Tutankhamun pencil case. Katie shows a peace sign to her mirror. A cat crawls out of Bob's duffel bag. Sniggles pulls a stinky jumper. Luke struggles with a bag on his head. Ruth frowns. Sniggles a pair of leggings. Ruth a scary mask. Luke gets the bag off his head. Relief when he does. Bob holds his huge Persian cat.
Harmed in the making of this short film.
Reese is packing his suitcase with a Star Wars shirt, a cap, sunglasses, and sunscreen, Lion King shirt, cut-off jeans, 3 plastic spades, a pail, and a towel. Lewis is hiding in Reese's suitcase, and he pops out, scaring Reese away. Reese returns and, looking into the empty case, gets closer and about to dive in. He looks into the bottom of the suitcase and vanishes. Lewis can't find Reese. Searches high and low, and slowly, carefully approaches the suitcase, and peering into it, drops in, and it suddenly closes, and he's gone. Title screen. What's in the bag? Michael opens the door to his bedroom wearing a ball cap, and in a jubilant mood he notices a black sports bag on the floor. He slowly approaches it, squatting, lifts it, sniffs it, and then calls to his look-alike in a sleeveless vest and a bucket hat,
Kieran!
who enters the
Yes,
room.
Michael. Yo, where this bag come from, bro? This bag? I don't even know. Maybe Mom must have leave it in here. Why? No, I'm just asking in it, cause I never seen this bag in here before. Cause just want to have a look in it. Don't you think that's personal? You shouldn't be looking in people's property. It's best to leave it, man.
Kieran leaves, and the door closes.
Okay, I just don't look in people's property. Like you said, personal.
Michael goes to open the door but answers his phone instead.
Hello?
You open the door tonight.
Huh? Hello?
He looks back at his phone and types with his phone.
That's strange. I'm gonna die tonight. Who would say things like that?
The bag begins to beep. Michael's face widens in surprise. The screen goes blank. End credits. Devised by Open Theatre participants from Open Mac, One of a Kind, and the Friday Group. Audio description by Bruce Tetlow and edited by Sean Bold. Title screen. First acts. Headlights flaring. A large 18-wheel lorry leaves a warehouse. Inside, a man walks past aisles of giant yellow storage shelves. Wearing a green boiler suit and reading from a blue clipboard, he walks past the aisles as the bright lights at the other end switch off automatically. Walking past the final aisle, with a dark object on the floor at the far end, he stops. He suddenly looks up, eyes wide, and turning his head to the side, he takes a few steps backward and, leaning, notices a black bag at the end of the aisle. His eyes quickly focus in on the bag, making it appear much closer. Surveying the bag, he reaches for a brown luggage tag, which reads, "Do not open." A mist surrounds him, attempting to move the bag. First push, then pull. With one hand, then two. He kicks it, then he hops in pain. He squats to lift it, then winces, holding his lower back. He opens the bag's zipper and flips a coin. Staring deep into the bag, he tosses the coin in. Lips pursed, listens and looks, shakes his head. Nothing. Shocked at what he sees, he jumps back, recoiling. Shoes in his hands, he shuffles back and forth, tempted in, then repulsed. He opens the bag's edges, steps in, and sits with knees up. The bag is now over his arms and around his shoulders, shaking his head, straining his back, eyes wild and cross, blowing on the zipper as it closes around his neck. Tipping him on his side, he wriggles and writhes, but the zip continues to close the gap. One eye left showing, he watches the zip close completely. The next day, the man walks beyond the tall yellow shelves, past the aisle with the bag. He stops and suddenly recalls something, and his eyes widen. Once again, his mind is quickly drawn to the bag, making it appear much closer. End credits. The Bag. Written and performed by Jake Jarvis. Production mentors Richard Hayhow and Rachel Lambert. Director of photography Tom Middleton. Production assistant Rosie Shewell. Offline editors Tom Middleton, Francesca Kemp. Colorist David Jones. Online editor Steve May. Composer Alex Fraser. Sound mixer Dave Mason. With special thanks to Bethan Bell, Mike Gatoes, Arctic Circle Hereford. For Maverick Television, executive producer Amanda White, production executive Helen Jenks, production manager Tom Parker, production secretary Tom Waters. For Rural Media, executive producer Grant Black, post-production manager David Jones, partnerships director Julie Coleman, finance director Amanda Cartwright. Your audio describer Bruce Tetlow. The project was funded by the lottery, supported using public funding by Arts Council England. Tired of waiting, Lucan slaps his sides. Josh taps his chin impatiently. They both search around the same column, and touching back to back, they turn in surprise and then relief. They tip each other's hats in mutual approval. Title screen, Cops and Robbers, in white letters on a black background. On a sunny day, under the high modern arch between Coventry's old and new cathedrals, stand 4 substantial round concrete block columns where 2 young men are searching for each other unsuccessfully. A big man named Lucan, with dark skin and wearing a black bowler hat, t-shirt and jeans, is in despair, leaning on a column. Oblivious to this, a shorter, light-skinned man named Josh, wearing a matching bowler hat, approaches from the other side. A man in jeans, with his wallet half out of his back pocket, walks by and stands near a column. Robber Lucan distracts him by asking for directions while Robber Josh takes the wallet and the man walks off. They celebrate by taking the money out immediately and jumping up and down in delight. Title screen, The Mark. A young man named John B. with curly short hair and wearing an open summer jacket walks down the Coventry Cathedral steps in front of St. Michael defeating Satan. Robber Lucan and Robber Josh spot John B. He removes his wallet from an inside pocket, counts his money, and puts it back. The 2 robbers repeat their routine. Lucan distracts John B. with praying hands, while Josh swipes the man's wallet and hands it to Lucan, whilst asking John B. for directions. Then he walks away. John B. checks his jacket and knows he's been robbed, but he's not sure who to chase. Title screen, The Picnic. 3 young women and 3 young men are having a picnic on grass under trees near the cathedral. Jazz, in a white top, has long wavy brown hair tied up loosely. A young man named Luke has hair cut short on the sides and long on top. Jake has a beard and a black top, and so does June, Matt, and Hannah, who also wears glasses. June has prescription glasses and her hair up, and Matt has long hair and a hood over his head. The picnic group smile and enjoy some peaceful relaxation in nature while a pigeon sneaks around them. Jake swats away a fly, so does Luke. It flies amongst the group and lands on Jazz's nose. Cross-eyed, she freezes until Luke smacks her in the face. The fly lands on her hand, and she flicks it away. They all do a cheers with their bubbly water bottles. Once opened, the bottles fizz and spray everywhere, scattering the group. Settling down, they are approached by Robber Lucan, who points to the middle of the blanket as a bag is stolen from behind June. Lucan then does a magic trick with a coin in his hat, and shaking it and then tipping it, the coin is gone. Josh grabs a second bag, but Luke is holding the strap. He points at Josh. Josh puts his hands up but makes a run for it. The group point at Josh, then look at Lucan, who tosses the coin and bolts. They attract 2 policemen, who take a look around and run off in pursuit. Title screen, The Chase. The cop, Richard, is wearing a high-vis jacket and a peaked hat. Cop Sundeep is a taller man in a black suit and a trimmed fedora hat. On a fenced lawn, the 2 criminals speed past Georgian terraced houses, followed by Cop Richard and Cop Sundeep, who bends over, out of breath. Twice around a large tree, the 4 men chase single file in a circle and run off, with Cop Sundeep resting one hand on a tree. Robbers run back past the terrace houses, pausing briefly to check behind them, but quickly leave. The Cop Richard quickly sits and rolls where they just were, and Cop Sundeep stops to catch his breath again. Title screen, Chez Matthew. Head waiter Matthew is preparing his fine dining restaurant for guests. He's long-haired with a dark spotted headband, black t-shirt, apron, leggings, and heels. His helpful waitress named Jazz wears a white top. Matthew arranges the flowers and pillows, then claps for her to spray and wipe a large table. She looks exhausted and sits. Diners arrive, and a romantic man, John B., and his date, June, are seated at a smaller table. John takes the flowers from the table and presents them to June, who's flattered and bats her eyelashes. A family of 4 arrives at the second larger table with 2 teenage boys named Jake and Luke, who wear white sun visors off to the side of their head. They are full of mischief, with jokes, pratfalls, banging the table, and flicks of water across the length of it. The mother moves the water away from one son, only for the other son to flick it back. Son Luke takes his mobile phone. His mother snatches it away. Waiter Matthew recognizes his flowers and recovers them from June, savoring their fragrance. He returns them, hands her a menu, and leaves. John returns them with a smile. June's not impressed, and romantic John's smile fades. Father John S. pushes his son Jake's foot off the table and arranges his napkin with his pretty wife Hannah. Her son Luke uses the tablecloth and Jake sneezes into his tablecloth. Matthew and the waitress show their mutual disgust when suddenly Robber Lucan barges in between them and tips the family's table over before grabbing romantic John and slamming his head down onto his table. Robber Josh enters, takes a flower from the vase and sticks it in romantic John's face before running off. Cop Richard enters and steps over the mess, surveys the scene, and continues his pursuit. Cop Sundi arrives, removes his hat and the rest of the flowers, and drinks the water in the vase. He runs off again, followed by Matthew. Back on the cobblestone street in front of the Georgian terraced houses, the 4 cops and robbers run past, followed by Matthew with a half-filled vase of water for Cop Sundi. The 5 then run beyond a large tree with a hand-shaped sign pointing the other way, the Rising Cafe. Title screen: The Flea Pit, Kung Fu Matinee. 2 male ushers named John S. and John B. start this scene. Then 5 patrons arrive, including 3 women and 2 men. The women are named June, Grace, and Jazz and wear a gray hoodie, black t-shirt, and a white long-sleeved shirt, in that order. The men are named Luke and Jake and wear black t-shirts, with Bruce Lee and Gorillas written on them. Usher John S. wears glasses and a white collar shirt. He holds a broom and receives instructions from the lead usher named John B. wearing a black t-shirt, trousers, and tie. The ushers shake hands and John S. sweeps while John B. watches, but he soon gets the broom in his face. He points and gives more instruction, but eventually gives up and beckons him over to tidy his hair. Patron June whips out her ticket to be ripped and returned. Patron Grace does the same, and a 3rd patron, Jazz, follows suit, but then performs an entire karate arm sequence, sending the ticket into the air in shock. The 2 ushers just let her enter. The 3 ladies, June, Grace, and Jazz, sit in a row and perform a reprise of Jazz's karate arm moves. Luke offers his ticket and enters. Then Jake, face hidden by a tall bag of popcorn, searches his pockets. Ushers on both sides reach out to help him, but his face pops out to ward them off. John B. lifts his ticket from the floor and Jake snatches it away and walks in smiling. He then disturbs everyone whilst taking his seat behind the ladies and next to Luke. Jake sits and looks inside his bag of popcorn. Luke points to distract Jake and steals his popcorn. Jake stands up and shakes his finger at him. The ladies all turn with a shushed finger, and Jake meekly sits down. The 5 patrons turn to enjoy the karate-style film with faces of fear, surprise, and giggles. Suddenly, Robber Josh climbs over the chairs from behind and in between Jake and Luke, and continuing over and between the row of ladies. He's followed by Robber Lucan, and eventually Cop Richard climbs over the seats as well. A fistfight ensues. Josh strikes Richard with a right hook. Richard counters with a strong jab, sending Josh reeling backwards into Lucan, who frisbee throws his hat at Richard's head. Cop Sundeep grabs the hat and tosses it aside. Both cops point at the robbers, who turn to flee toward the exit. Watching them go, the crowd begin karate chopping each other, and Jake dumps his popcorn on Luke's head. The chase continues outside and up a narrow cobblestone alley. The 4 cops and robbers run past, but Sundeep stops at a doorway to catch his breath. But seeing Matthew behind carries on. Matthew and then the usher race after him. Title screen: Wedding Bells, The Nervous Groom. John S. is the nervous groom who's marrying June. She will be wearing a white, tight-wrapped toga with her hair in a high bun and a long veil over her head and shoulders. Her bridesmaid is Hannah, dressed in a darker toga. Luke is the modern-looking registrar. John S., wearing a black dinner jacket, sits in a small registry room where chairs are arranged in 2 blocks with a central aisle. Jake, the best man, wears a white collar shirt, and a young woman in a white suit jacket named Jazz waits impatiently in the bride's block of seats across the aisle. Jake settles John the groom with a breathing exercise. John checks with Jake if the ring is safe. Jake is confident, then panics as he can't locate the ring and begs John's forgiveness. Jazz leans forward, then points to the ring on the floor between them. John shows it to Jake, who receives it with fumble fingers, nearly dropping it. Luke gestures for all to rise. June enters and beams a smile. Hannah follows, carrying her train, who is joined by Jazz in throwing confetti over the bride. The groom steps in and the couple come together in front of the pew. Robber Josh barges past them and down the aisle. Registrar Luke is left speechless at the pew as Robber Luke joins Josh at the rear of the aisle where Josh has stood on a chair. Josh splays his arms, declines his neck, and sticks out his tongue. Lucan finds a red shawl to put over his head. The wedding party are broken up again by Cop Richard on the hunt, looking for imposters, kneels at the feet of the two icons to pray for guidance. Joined by Cop Soondeep, the usher, and Matthew, they all kneel. Cop Soondeep is the first to become suspicious and tickles Josh under his nose with the bouquet. Josh breaks out of his freeze and runs back down the aisle, followed by the entire wedding party, leaving Registrar Luke to cross himself. Robert Lucan, left alone and safe, breaks out of his frozen statue costume of Mary and, looking around, replaces his bowler hat and skulks away. Meanwhile, Robert Josh has got the whole gang on his tail as he exits the cathedral ruins out onto the cobble streets. They all run down the pavement in a long line. Robert Josh runs into a garden surrounded by shrubberies and, realizing he's trapped, leans over to catch his breath. The line of pursuers surround him while Cop Richard tasers him to the ground. Robert Josh is hauled off as Cop Soondeep returns the flowers to Matthew's vase, much to everyone's amusement. Title screen. Crowbar Hotel. Audio description introduction. Guard Richard, a young Downs man with brown skin, wears glasses and a white shirt. Other characters include Inmate Jazz. She wears a black hoodie over a wool hat. Inmate June in a grey hoodie and cap. Inmate Matt in glasses and t-shirt. Inmate Jake in a black t-shirt. Inmate Luke in a v-neck. And Inmate Grace in a black hoodie. Inmate Soondeep is in a white t-shirt and black Ray-Ban sunglasses. There's also Warden John S. wearing a white collar shirt, and Guard John B. in the same. Wearing a black and white striped long-sleeved shirt with black trousers, Robert Josh, now Inmate Josh, part of his rehabilitation, I'm sure, is thrown into a jail's concrete outer courtyard. Josh turns and squats against the back wall and marks a 1 on it with some white chalk. A black title screen appears. Day 1 in white letters. He marks a 5th tally mark. Title screen, still day 1. Josh marks a 28th, 29th, and 30th tally mark. Title screen. Josh just likes doodling. Josh scribbles all over the wall with the words, "Help me," and other larger bits of rough mark making. Josh walks in a large, slow circle around the courtyard with Guard Richard overseeing the procession. The other inmates appear in this exercise of drudgery. Jazz, June, Matt, Jake, Luke, and Grace all take small, stiff steps with arms by their sides, eyes downcast, and all entirely unimpressed with their lot. Jake is jostling with Matt at the end of a long dinner queue, with Jazz and Grace standing to attention as the warden, John S., bring the crew into an orderly queue. Guards Richard and John B., arms folded, oversee the self-servicing of the white plates of mash from a serving table. Soondeep takes the first plate of white mash. As each plate goes, the guards spit and cough on the food. Guards Rashid and John B. sneer at the stragglers Jake and Luke as they take their spat-on plates. Following Jake and Luke to their table-end seats, Rashid stands behind Soondeep, sat in the middle of the long table. They all sit staring at their food, and some eat while others just play with their virtually inedible white mash. Bored, Josh reaches around and taps Soondeep's arm from behind Matt's back. Soondeep reacts calmly at first and only looks up from his plate. Josh repeats it twice more. Fed up, Soondeep nudges Matt, who is oblivious and looks around, but does nothing in retaliation. Josh taps Soondeep twice this time and snickers to himself. Fed up, Soondeep cleans off his fork, picks up his plate, and sticks the plate into Matt's face. Josh stands and throws his at Jake's face at the end of the table. Jake peels it off and forces Luke's face down into his mash. Josh throws the plate the other way at Grace's face, who immediately flips Jazz and June's plates up into their faces. Newcomers Richard and Stephen stand to the side, and Richard ducks. With white faces, Matt and June attack Josh, who ducks down. A mash plate lands on Stephen's bald head, and he's shocked. Under the table, Josh reties John B's shoelaces, places a mash plate on the ground, takes his keys, and when he tries to chase Josh, he trips and falls face down onto the mash plate. Josh grabs 2 plates and double hits John S. and flees. Inside the prison, Josh runs up and down a ramp, looks over a balcony, takes some stairs and a final ramp, and using the keys at the door, fumbles with a few and eventually, after a bit of a panic, manages to open the door to freedom and sunlight with a big stretch of his arms in triumph. Title screen, fresh air, well, fresh-ish. This is Coventry. In a grey Converse hoodie, up over his head, Josh walks the streets of Coventry. Josh passes a few cops on the streets who he hides his face from, relieved to slip away undetected with a backpack on and his black bowler hat in his hand. Josh leans forward on his knees for a rest with some grass and trees nearby. With Josh looking the other direction, Lucan, his old partner in crime and still in his bowler hat, sneaks up behind him and tries to pick his pocket. Josh turns, removes his hoodie, puts on his own bowler hat, and the two are reunited, still play punching and grabbing each other's hat like old times. Josh spots a woman with a backpack walk by and rubs his chin. The two old robbers eye each other. Lucan nods, but Josh shakes his head and gestures that he's cut off. Lucan flaps his arms in disappointment and walks after the woman. End credits. Cops and Robbers, featured in alphabetical order: Richard Beckett, John Bennell, Hannah Bird, Sundeep Joshanje, Luke Greenwood, Jake Jarvis, Jazz McKierney, Matt Moore, Josh Ranger, June Reeves, Grace Smith, Lucan Smith, John Stokes. The story was created by Asim, Ben, Elijah, Emily, Evie, Georgia, Jack, Jacob, Jake, James, Joanne, Khalid, Marlene, Michaela, Reese, Tom. Supported by the Open Theatre team: Lydia Atherton, John Bennell, Hannah Bird, Richard Hayhow, Grace Smith, Marlene Van Liemt. Filmed at the Belgrade Theatre and on location in the city of Coventry. Directed for Told by an Idiot by Stephen Harper. Filmed and edited for Film TV by Adam Robertson. This project would not have been possible without the support of Riverbank and Sherborne Fields schools, and particularly Michelle Nugent and Sam Kendall. Belgrade Theatre, Coventry, for their very real commitment to helping make this happen. Music from www.filmmusic.io. The Show Must Go On, Le Grand Chasse, Toccata and Fugue in D minor, and Break Time by Kevin MacLeod, www.incomtech.com. License CC by creativecommons.org. Licenses by 4.0. This film was created in 2019 by Told by an Idiot in partnership with Open Theatre as part of the Silent Treatment Project 2019. Watch this film again and find out more about the Silent Treatment, www.toldbyanidiot.org. The project was generously supported by Heart of England, Belgrade Theatre Coventry, the Norton Foundation. Your audio describer is Bruce Tetlow. A young man named Josh stands in front of a pale green wall. He has light skin, deep blue eyes, and straight auburn hair parted to the side. He has some facial hair at the stubble stage. He's wearing a plain white collar shirt and speaks directly into the camera throughout.
It's Josh here, one of the robbers from Cops and Robbers, and the only character who didn't get a custard pie in their face. Aha. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. The film was supported by Open Theatre, directed for Told by an Idiot by Stephen Harper, filmed and edited for Film City by Adam Robertson. It was filmed at the Belgrade Theatre and many other wonderful locations in Coventry. More about the work we do, find us on our website on www.opentheatre.co.uk and www.toldbyanidiot.org, and follow us on social media at open_theatre_co and at toldbyanidiot93. Please also donate what you can to our #OpenTheatre30 campaign to enable us to provide more creative opportunities for young people with learning disabilities. The link to donate is www.justgiving.com /campaign/30x30. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you again, and see you next time.
Josh scrunches up his face to receive his white cream pie. It arrives on a paper plate, which when removed leaves a great white blob behind.